3D cursor and origins. So in this video we're going to take another look at our reference pieces, and we're going to look for some commonality to save us time with our modelling. And finally we're going to use the 3D cursor and the origin associated with an object to accurately control our piece. So let's go back to our chosen dimensions that we had a look at earlier, and we've already done our pawn, and that's 3 centimeters. The base is, well, 3 blender units in this case. Now all of the other pieces bar the king have a 4 centimeter base, and that's what we've picked, and that is a third larger again, so 33% larger. So when we go and scale in a bit, we'll need to scale by 1.33, etc. Well, I'm not quite sure how many threes we're going to need. We can have a look anyway and see as we go. So let's hop on over to my file system where we can have another look at our pieces. So looking at our pieces, we can see that the bishop itself and the king and the pawn and the queen have a very similar neckline all up to this bit along the top. So just beneath the ball on here, we've got this little plate it sits on. Now I'm pretty certain that if we grabbed the bishop's head and replaced it with a ball, well, it would look pretty similar. You wouldn't be able to distinguish between the two unless you saw them in situation. And the same with the king. So I think we can use our pawn base all the way up to this top bit of the neck here, and then build upon that to make the rest of our pieces. Now I understand we've just archived away our pawn, but we can go and retrieve it and start using it to make the rest of our model. The exception to this, of course, is the knight itself, which is geometrically completely different from the rest of the pieces, apart from its base, and the rook itself, which has sort of no top to it. It's got these castlements on top. So let's hop straight on over into Blender. Okay, so now we're in Blender. I've just opened it up afresh, and fortunately my low poly pawn is still in my recent files, so I'm happy to go open that there. If yours isn't, go to your project folder in your archive folder, because you've just archived it. Feel free to pull it back out into the working folder if you want. I'm just going to open it up because we're going to save it in a few moments as the new piece. So I'm going to go straight over to our outliner and change this to bishop. And I'm going to go to File, Save As, and name it appropriately. So in this case, I'm going to put it in the current working folder and call it Low Poly Bishop, or LP Bishop in my case, and save as Blender file. So I'm just going to amend this here and also put LP Bishop in the outline, just so it's really descriptive as what we're working on. This obviously is not a bishop at the moment. We need to do a couple of things. So looking at the reference material there, we need to scale this up slightly. So I'm going to do that straight away. I'm just going to hit the S button, and we know that we need to scale it up by 1.333 recurring. So let's have a look over here in the properties pane. If it's not open, open yours up with the N key or the little plus, and we have dimensions here, and we can see X and Y are at 3, which is perfect because we want them at 4. So we could go and type in 4 there, to be quite honest, 4 and 4, and it looks a bit squat, but that's fine. But if we wanted to scale the whole lot at once, we'd have to work out, so let's undo that, we'd have to work out what this multiplied by 1.3 is. And I really don't want to grab a calculator at the moment, so I'm just going to scale up and go 1.3, and we can see that that produces 3.9. If we do another 3, it's 3.99, 3.999, and if we do to 4 decimal places, it's pretty much bang on 4 as far as Blender is concerned. Now we've got a little problem here because it's pushed it through the floor here. So we need to do a bit of jiggery-pokery to try and get this back onto the floor plane itself, so where Z equals 0. We can do that in a couple of ways. If you knew exactly the mathematics required, you could adjust the Z up here in the transform to be something other than 1, so it'd be something greater than 1, but that is the position of the origin of this object. So one of the things we could do is move the origin to the base of our pawn in this case, but soon to be bishop. So there are a couple of ways of doing that, but one of the easiest ways to do it is to get the 3D cursor, this thing here that you use with left mouse button, and then set the origin to it. So in the tool shelf, whilst in object mode, if we put the cursor over here and then go to where it says set origin and go origin to 3D cursor, it moves the 3D cursor, it moves the origin to the 3D cursor. Now this is important because this is used in so many factors, including how it scales, so it's going to scale in and out towards that. It's also going to rotate around that, so it acts as a pivot point as well. So that allows us to have lots of control. Now having it all the way out there, in this case, isn't going to benefit us. And later on, when we start playing with physics modelling, this will be the object's centre of mass. More on that later on. Now we need to just move it somewhere a bit more useful for us, and that's the base of this pawn, or bishop as it will soon be. So one of the things you can do here is literally start clicking on our object, and if we rotate round after you've clicked, you will see that where you've clicked, it kind of attaches itself to the face that you've clicked on. It's semi-intelligent in that manner, so it works with us. And fortunately for us, we've got a big flat base on the bottom of our object here. So if we click on that, anywhere on that, that is actually on perfectly on that face. The other thing that we can do with the 3D cursor is actually tell it where to go instead. So for instance, in edit mode, if we select a particular point, edge or vertex, so if we select this vertex here, for instance, this one here, we can then use the shortcut keys Shift plus S, and that opens up this snapping menu for our 3D cursor. When we do that, we can actually move the cursor to the selected. So we've popped the 3D cursor smack bang on that vertex there. If we had an edge selected and we did the same thing, Shift S, and then cursor to selected, it would go into the middle of that edge. And if we had a face selected, well, you probably guessed it already, when we go to snap it with Shift and S, we can move cursor to selected, it appears in the middle of our face. So the final thing you can do is set this 3D cursor back to 0, 0, 0, which is right in the middle of our model. Well, not this particular model, but in the middle of our scene where X, Y, and Z all equal 0. Now you can do that in the properties section over here. If we scroll down, we've got our 3D cursor position, its location. And the shortcut, we could go into there and set them all as 0, but the shortcut is Shift and S, and then finally cursor to center. And that will pop it where 0, X, Y, and Z all equal 0. It's challenge time! Okay guys, I'd like you to place the bishop on the ground. So I say ground in inverted commas, what I mean is so the bishop is actually where Z equals 0, so nothing is protruding beneath that grid. So I'd like you to scale the bishop's base to 4 Blender units in diameter if you've not done already. Then set the origin to the base of the bishop. Then set the base of our bishop to Z equals 0. And there's extra credit, it's not necessary, but extra credit if you set the bishop's origin to 0, 0, 0. So that means that our bishop is really square in the scene. Pause the video now and give that a go. Okay guys, welcome back. Let's hop straight on over into Blender. Okay, so let's go about moving all of this stuff above this ground plane. So let's move around and just click on the base. So that is definitely on the base there, and then we need to go into object mode. I'm not in object mode at the moment because the origin is changed there. So set the origin to the cursor, origin to 3D cursor. Brilliant. So now we have it on the base. Over in the properties pane, we can see that Z equals minus 2.5. So if we set that to 0, it will lift that up to the right place, which is brilliant. That's now sitting on the ground. So the next thing we need to do is just move the origin to the center. So as we can see there, it's not quite there. The object is, but the origin is not. So let's move the origin now to the center. So what we need to do, we're going to move the 3D cursor first. So Shift and S, cursor to center. Now that the cursor's in center, we can then again go set origin to the 3D cursor, and let's move that back to there. So now the origin of our model is smack bang on the bottom, which in this case is great. Excellent. How did you guys get on? Please share your progress in the discussions, and I will see you in the next lecture.